Yeah.
Hello there, everyone. We will start now. It is on past. So first of all, thank you to everybody for joining us this evening and for giving up your time. Again, just a reminder, if you can turn off your cameras because we will be recording, and if you can just keep yourselves on mute because it does interrupt the presentation if you unmute yourselves. We have got a comments box up and running, so if you do want to put something into the comments box, we'll do our best to answer any queries as we go along. So first of all, welcome. I'm Sarah Howard and I'm Deputy Head.
I'm Dan Googe and I am Head of Year 11, newly appointed from January, so I've not been here too long. I know for some of you it's probably the first time you've seen or heard from me, so thank you for joining.
And so really today is just an evening from us on how to support your sons, your daughters with their revision. Obviously, it's a really difficult time of year for everybody involved. And so we're hoping to give you support. Ms. Googe in class has also for tutor time put together a lot of resources for students, so they are getting sort of these resources as well. So it's not just coming to you, it's coming to students as well. Okay, so I'm just going to begin by handing over to Mr. Googe, but welcome.
Thank you. As Ms. Howard said as well, it's kind of an evening to kind of go through.
Hang on, so your screen sharing is paused.
Oh.
Sorry, technical issues this side. Just ask me if you can see. Could you put into the chat if you can see the screen, because it's coming up here that the screen in our screen sharing has been paused. So if somebody could let us know, that would be great. I'm just going to come to the chat so. Okay, so I'm very, very sorry. We will do our very best to get this sorted out quickly. I do apologise. It might be best to stop the share and reload it.
Okay, where are we? So, hopefully now you'll be able to see the screen. There we go. I think hopefully now. Let me see. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Brilliant.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. So as I was saying, it's really just an evening for us to share some of the strategies and some of the things that we're doing in school to support your sons and daughters. Also to have a look at some of the things that you could do at home and some of the things we could do together as a collective to really give your sons and daughters the best opportunity in the limited time that we have left. Something that I am speaking to students about constantly is that time left. To put it into no uncertain terms, we are running out of time. If we take it into school days, we're looking at 6 school weeks, including this week. Take that into days, you're looking at 25 school days from tomorrow until the 16th of May. And the 16th of May is the date of the first exam. So really, I know there are some exams that happen before, dramas happen before. I think art does some prep work before that as well. But really from the 16th of May is when it kind of hits properly, and every day from there on until kind of the end of June, there are exams. So it's something to bear in mind that time is of the essence. Ultimately, the revision needs to be student-led, but there are some things that we can put in place to help with that as well. So some parental support from you guys. It's not an easy job at all. You will know, and we know as teachers, that giving advice to these year 11s and to 15, 16-year-olds in general is not easy. So during the revision periods, it gets worse. There's a lot of stress, there is anxiety. I've just done a session with year 11 in fact, on anxiety and kind of how to manage it a little bit more as well, because everyone's feeling the pressure at the moment. They will tell you that they're fine, that they don't need any help, they're doing everything right. Please don't be disheartened by that. Please don't take it as a personal kind of jibe that they don't want to speak to you. It's normal. It's normal for the students to feel that way. However, research shows that students with parents who support their learning tend to achieve up to 2 grades higher than those without that support in place. And that support could be just staying on top of them, making sure they're doing their revision. It could be that you sit down with them and you help them find what type of revising that they are capable of achieving. It could be that you just give them a space where they can have an hour on their own in quiet environment where they can do the revision themselves as well.
So what I'd say is that the fact that you're logged on tonight is a real benefit to the students. So thank you very much for your time.
Really, for us as a school and you guys as parents, we want to work as a partnership with the student as well. It's no good for a student just to kind of lock themselves away in their bedroom with some books and just kind of constantly revise and try and cram that revision in. Obviously, when they're in school, they're learning content. Myself, as well as head of year 11, I've put a lot of work into giving them some revision sessions within their form time in the morning, which has been running for the last 3 weeks, and that will run all the way up until they leave us here at Harlington. Each week looking at different strategies, different techniques. As I said, last week it was on exam anxiety. The week before that it was on timetabling and how to process the timetable, etc. So that's something that's in place that form tutors are running. My assemblies are focused at the moment as well on revision and on making the most of the time spent in school. And also in terms of what we have on offer, each department are running different revision sessions, either at breaks or lunches. There are some after school sessions. I've just opened up L7 in the morning. So from 7:30, L7 as a computer suite is open every morning for students to come and revise in. I also have an agreement with the library where the library can be used at break, lunches and after school for revision as well. Just so the students have a space where they can come and revise and use the facilities that are on offer here. Alongside that as well, though, we need to work together as a partnership, almost like a 3-pronged process, whereby the student can come and use the school facilities, the school and home are connected and are speaking to each other as we are now. And then obviously the home and the student are working in cohesive measures as well to make sure that all of the support is there for the students.
We've just got a message through about revision timetable. So it would be up to the students to do their own revision timetables. We will give them the methods in order to do that, wherewithal to do that. But obviously that timetable is going to be different for different students. Some students might want to spend longer on history, some students might want to spend longer on geography, etc. So it's really, that's part of the skill set and part of what Mr. Goodhue has been sort of teaching them is how to sort of timetable their revision. Another message has come through about the library. The libraries are open for revision. It's really open until the last member of staff leaves the building, okay, but they will have to tell a member of staff that they're in there, otherwise obviously we won't be able to keep an eye on them, okay.
I was going to jump in, sorry miss. I see you're asking about subjects and the revision support. I have a spreadsheet with all of the subjects and what they're offering, and I'm just finalising that with HTT as well. Once that's finalised, that will be published as well, so that you can see when these subjects are running particular interventions. I know English has been really kind of forthcoming with letting the students know, but all subjects are running revision sessions. So it's just a case of the students asking their teachers, because they will know about it, but there is going to be a published timetable with revision sessions when they're running, what days, what times, etc. That will be coming out by the end of the week at the latest as well.
Subject content is very department specific. So in English, I know they finished before Christmas the subject content, whereas in history it will be a little bit later. So it's subject specific, but they will have all finished the content and have had time to revise before the exams. And exam techniques is what we focus on. So they will have had exam technique practice before, well, as they're going through the course, from the very start of the course, from before when they did their year 10 exams to their mock exams, etc. So the students will have been well versed in exam board specific techniques. Yeah.
So just moving on. So to get started, really, it's about opening communication links and talking to the students. Talk to them about their revision period. As it says, better sooner than later. Just ask them how they're getting on with their revision. Is there anything you can do to support? If there is something or they have questions that you can't answer, then please feel free to email myself. And I will try and get an answer for you as well. But really opening up that communication, speaking to them and seeing where they are at with in terms of having a revision timetable that they've created themselves, that they know what they should be studying, when they should be studying it. And as I've said, any questions that you can't answer, please don't feel that you can't email me. Just email me and I will get back to you.
Or the form tutor would be probably your first port of call. And if it's subject specific, please remember to email the subject tutor, because they'll know more about specific subject issues than Mr. Gooch. What I would say is about talking to them, I'd start now talking to them, because as soon as they get in the exam period, they just won't hear you anymore. So it's better to start that dialogue now rather than leave it to once the exams have started. There's a question about study leave. The students will be, their last day will be the day before the May half term, so there won't be
25th.
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah. I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah,
actually.
it's the end of May, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the half term will be when they go on to study leave. Okay.
And just again, thinking about getting started, you should all have access to class charts. If not, that's something we can get. We can get the login details for you. But class charts is really beneficial to see kind of at this moment in time as well, what revision homework and what revision materials are being placed onto class charts for subjects specifically, so that you can keep an eye on that as well and see what is being set. In terms of homework, it should be there to, it should be revision based really. So you've got access to have a look at that on class charts as well. So motivation, something that I'm dealing with at the moment. Students' motivation seems to fluctuate. It's one day they'll be really motivated, normally at the beginning of the week, and then as the week goes on, as their subjects come in, as kind of more pressure is placed on themselves, their motivation seems to wane a little bit. So just remind them that the exam period doesn't last forever. Yes, there is a push at the moment and say a bit of a countdown as to the amount of days left. It starts on the 16th of May, and then it rolls up just about the end of June. So it is a long period, but I think it's good to bear in mind as well there, and to pass the message on, that they will not have an exam every single day. There'll be periods where they have a cluster of exams, but depending on their subject choices, the exam timetables are spread out. And as you get towards the end of June, it tends to tail off a bit as well. So motivation is really key throughout that period, and particularly in those rest days, if you like, between the exams, where they can recuperate and get that revision in as well. I think it's important to remind them that of the outcomes, why they're doing this, and the importance of their GCSEs in terms of their next steps. Either go into college, go into an apprenticeship, go into a sixth form. It really does kind of open and close doors in terms of kind of where they are with their gradings, etc. And sometimes motivation with that, a little bit of motivation as to, do you know what, you need this to get to the next step, is a little bit of a push in the right direction. A couple of things that we've put down as well, maybe a controversial comment. Some students respond really well to incentives. So I know in the past where I've worked before, as it says there, some parents give bonuses for particular grades, etc. I have heard of that. It is a controversial comment. Perhaps a less controversial comment is to just have something nice planned at the end of that exam period. Have a look, see when your son or daughter's last exam is, and potentially just have a nice meal or their favorite takeaway or a film or something for them to just relax and chill, just have an incentive that actually it's over now and the stress levels can come back down.
just on a personal note with that, the controversial one, make sure it's the same for both brothers and sisters and siblings, because my parents gave my brother a bonus for passing his GCSEs and they didn't give one to me, and I'm still slightly bitter about it. So just make sure whatever you do the same for all of your children. The study leave will not be starting before half term. You're absolutely right. So there was just another question there about study leave. There are lots of schools who expect students to be, the government has scrapped study leave. It's actually illegal to put study leave in place. In fact, we should be having the students in all the way through to the 29th of June or some such date, whenever the last exam is. So yeah, unfortunately, they will be in school for the 2 weeks before half term, where the GCSE exams start. So that was just another question that came through.
So just moving on again, I've done a session on this with the students a couple of weeks back now, on just having the right environment and the right environment for them. Having a chat with some of the students, it seems like their bed and their comfy environment is kind of where they've been choosing to do some of their revision. And I get that they want to be comfortable and it's a safe space for them. However, it's probably not the best environment to really motivate yourself. So just a thing that I put forward, something as well that you might want to be able to support with, is just making sure that they have the right environment, that it's organized, that it's quiet, there's minimal distractions, they're not listening to multiple music, or haven't got the TV on the background, they're not playing their games halfway through. Some music can help students, I do know that as well, but I would suggest thinking about the right kind of music. I know some students have said just having some white noise in the background, just having some kind of relaxation techniques in the background as well. You can find lots of streaming services on YouTube, etc. But yeah, really kind of limiting those distractions. If you can't offer that at home, maybe somewhere like a library, maybe a relative's house, or somewhere where they've got a prolonged area or a prolonged time where they can really sit down and concentrate. Remind siblings to be considerate as well. And if you have any difficulties with that, please, as it says, just contact your form's tutor, and we will see what we can do in terms of offering some space here. As I said, the library's here in the mornings from 7:30. L7 is free and manned by myself. So there are places where students can come in and revise in school as well.
Sorry, just a couple of questions have come up. One about the government and the exam board information with regards to COVID. That has been gone through with students in class, but my understanding is that Mr. Munshee will also be sending information home via the exams later on. But all the information with regards to curriculum and what's in the exams is freely available to everybody on the exam board's websites. Okay, so if but as I say, we have gone through that, or students have gone through that with their teachers in class. Another question, is there an Easter half-term revision class? I'm not sure about Easter, but they are doing Saturday morning revision classes. I think it's by invite only to students who, depending on the subject, who they think would benefit the most from those classes, but there are Saturday classes going on for different subjects each week at the moment. Okay. So
how much time should I be revising each day? Question that I get asked lots by students. There is no set answer, really. It really is kind of down to the students and the situation they are in. Personally, I think small manageable chunks are really effective. Our brains tend to kind of start drifting after about 30-40 minutes. So having a prolonged 2-3 hour cramming session the night before isn't really that effective in terms of retaining that information. As I said, there is no set answer, and every child is different. Every student will find a different way of revising. So really the answer is that there isn't a set time that you should be revising, but I would suggest at this point, with the time frame left, looking at a couple of hours a night, but splitting that as well. So for every 20-30 minutes, you're adding in a 5-minute rest break where you just kind of go get a drink, stand up, walk around, reset your batteries, go have a conversation about something completely different, and then come back to it, potentially with another subject. So you're spreading your revision rather than kind of going over the same type of things. But again, I've been looking at revising, how much you should be revising, and revision techniques with students in form time each week. And it's something, as I've said, that will continue over the half term as well, all the way through. So they're getting a broad range of ideas about revision as well.
One thing I'd say is don't compare. So don't compare if you've had a student if had your son or daughter go through this process. Every child is different. You know, some students don't actually need to revise that much at all because they've consolidated as they've gone along. Whereas some students, you know, haven't done that and have left it to the last minute and are going to have to spend much more time doing their revision now. So, you know, don't compare with your child's sibling, don't compare with other children whom you know your child, you know how much work they've done as over the 2 years. And so, you know, take that into consideration as well. Okay.
Just sticking with revision as well, something that I've suggested to students is they make a bit of a revision timetable. I have sent out all of the resources that I've had to tutors. So they have that as well, because I know some students were asking about the resources I've used in the PowerPoints that I've sent out. So each form tutor has the resources that they can print out for the students to create their own timetables. There's lots of different variations of those timetables as well. But I think, you know, making a list, thinking about subjects, thinking about topic areas, because there'll be some topic areas in certain subjects that students are very clued up with, and there'll be some where there are gaps for whatever reason. So they need to prioritize, I suppose, what topic areas. Also having a look at the exam timetable and looking at what's coming first and kind of prioritizing where they are going to put their revision in terms of the next few weeks, I suppose. Thinking about having a clear space in the evenings and again, prioritizing if they have a club, an after school club or a part-time job or something for the next few weeks. It really is a case of them prioritizing what they see as that higher priority. For me, you know, with 25 school days left, it would be looking at that revision, looking, as I've said earlier, about opening those doors for the next step and just putting everything else aside for now, and thinking really about that revision as they're going forward. As I said, be reasonable with that revision time. So I would suggest a couple of hours a night, you know, 1 to 3 hours. Make sure that your sons and daughters are having breaks in that as well. They're not going, I know time runs away with us, but they haven't gone like an hour without you seeing them or hearing from them as they've just got their head in a book. Make sure you are going up, supporting them, seeing it, you know, having a conversation with them, making sure they're walking around, having a break. Because after 40, 50 minutes or so, our brains aren't as fresh as they were when we first started the revision. So again, I've just broke it down there. 10-minute break should be timetabled every hour or so, 5 minutes for 30 minutes revision, etc. Like I've said, keep it different topics as well, different topics, different subjects. So you're not just going, right, on Monday I'm going to do English, Tuesday I'm going to do maths, etc. Because again, although you might be splitting it into smaller chunks, you're kind of maybe going over the same kind of content, which can sometimes be debilitating for students if they're really struggling with that. So try and keep it small, manageable chunks of different subjects.
What I'd say as well, although it has to be small, manageable chunks, at times you might want them to sit a past paper, which might be an hour and a half or 2 hours. That would be the revision for that night. And it's good to do that, because it's good to practice past papers. And if they bring it into school and give it to their subject teacher, they will look at them. But also some of the exams are long. Some of them are over 2 hours. And so just getting them used to sitting down and doing a 2-hour exam, and getting them almost trained into it, is no bad thing at all. So for sort of learning subject content, I absolutely agree in those short, sharp bursts of subject content. But when you're practicing, it does them no harm at all to sit down and actually do an exam. And that could be the revision for that night, to have a go at an exam paper. Yeah,
I think I completely agree. I think it's important to have that discussion and distinguish the difference between kind of revising and looking at information in front of you and having that practice of an exam where you are trying to answer a question as well, and training your brain into that capability.
And again, you can get past papers, they're easily downloaded. The students know how to do this, but they're easily downloaded on the exam board website. So I know I teach English, there are hundreds of past papers on the exam board websites if they just go onto them.
Again, just an example of how you might want to break it down. So looking at topic 1 of a subject or a subject, revise 20 minutes, test for 5 minutes, rest, and then move on. And then you can break it down, especially when you're looking at subject content, just breaking it down to manageable pieces so that you're kind of having those rest breaks in there as well, which I think are really important.
Okay, so how to revise? Well, one of the things that I do with both parents and students, if you were sort of sat here in front of me, I would say a list of words and get you to write them down, okay? So I would just say a whole load of words to you, get them to write it down, and do this with students as well, and see how many they can remember. And what you find is they remember very, very few. However, if you get them to write a list of words into a story or into a song or into a rap or whatever, if you're doing something active with those words, you'll suddenly find that you can certainly, or they can certainly remember twice as many. And I think that is the point with revision. It has got to be active. The kids can't just sit there or lie there on the bed staring at a book, because it is not going to go in. They've got to actively do something with what they're looking at. Otherwise, it's just, well, they're just wasting their time. So there's all sorts of things that you can have a go at doing. I'm not going to read all of those out to you, but students will sort of work in different ways and find what works for them. One of the most effective ways, particularly if you've got a difficult subject or topic, etc., is to look cover right. If something just isn't sticking in, it really is very, very boring, and I can't say it's fun. There's nothing to, I can say about it that is going to make this fun, but they look at it, they write it, cover it over, write it down, look, cover, write it down till it sticks into their mind, hopefully. Okay, and that is incredibly dull, incredibly boring, but it's just, unfortunately, at this time of year and at this sort of juncture where they are, it's just, unfortunately, it's not fun. Like, you can't, you can use raps and mind maps and pictures and etc., make it as fun as you can, but ultimately they're still having to work. And I need to sort of put it into context for you. If I'd have read the list of words of 20 words, 30 words out to you, you probably wouldn't have remembered, well, me, I probably wouldn't have remembered 15 of them. I might have remembered 5 out of 20, maybe. But you've got to remember that there's, they've got so much to remember. Now, partly they'll have consolidated as they've gone along. So it's not like they're starting from scratch suddenly, but there is a lot for them to learn. So just, be encouraging, be patient, and just, talk to them, help them, talk them through it, make them sort of, and I think the exam timetable is really important, keeping it in manageable chunks. But there is a lot for them to do. And so working in different ways is one way of making it a little bit more manageable. So finding different ways of remembering things. And different things will work for different subjects. So, a mind map might work better for science than potentially it might do for English. So just sort of thinking about what will work for different subjects as well. But if they're just sat there reading, they're not revising, okay, because it's never, ever going to stick into their head. Sorry, just 2 more questions coming up here. The exam timetable, I thought, had been sent out.
My understanding was that it was emailed out. I think it is on the school website as well, from what I saw yesterday. I will double check that, but I'm sure I had a look on the school website and it was there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're hoping to get the slides. Once we've figured out how to retrieve the recording, which is what we're hoping to do, we'll put the recording up onto the school website. But if not, if we struggle with that, because as you've probably gathered from the start, our technical ability isn't amazing in Zoom. But if not, we will certainly make sure this, the PowerPoint is emailed out. Okay. It's me, isn't it? Yeah, sorry, just a couple more sort of activities. Websites are brilliant. There's some really good stuff out there. And so even though we've said at the start about not using computers, if they're using them effectively, actually there is some really strong websites out there. You know, even down to BBC bite size, but every different subject area has, and the kids know this, they have been told which websites to go to.
I think the use of websites and computers and stuff is brilliant, and it's beneficial, and it's part of our everyday life now. I think possibly the one piece of tech that we need to maybe take away for a little while is possibly the phone, because that is where kind of we would message friends, and then that becomes a social media usage, rather than having a laptop or a computer or whatever it is that you have, where you can just kind of get on with the work that is there for you.
But again, that's down to individuals. You know, I know that for my year 13 group last year, they had set up a revision forum when I was teaching English language, and so it's really going to be, again, you know your child, you know if they're going to be sat playing a game on their phone or if they're going to be using it effectively. Okay. But I know they can be used very effectively, and certainly the idea of you know, speaking to a friend about a particular topic, it can really help that sort of shared revision. But again, you know your kids, you know if they're going to be just chatting about what they're going to be up to on Saturday night, or if they're going to be able to actually focus and talk about the revision. Again, that is a really great way to revise, and even if you don't, you know, even if it's not sort of doable to have a friend round to the house, or to take a friend, to take your child round to a friend's house to have that sort of shared revision, if you get them to explain to you or to your sibling or their sibling about a difficult or challenging topic, being able to articulate the issue, to be able to articulate that particular thing that they're focusing on, is a really strong way of keeping it in their minds. And post-its and posters, I mean, I haven't got the picture up, actually, I should have put it in, but I mean, there's a picture of a year 11 student's bedroom where it's just covered everywhere in posters, which, you know, again, is that active revision. All right, whatever they're doing, they're making sure that they're doing something with that information that they're trying to get into their brain. Otherwise, I mean, it's basic memory tricks, essentially. But if, you know, if you're doing something actively, it's much more likely to stick. One thing about most students like to do is they like to produce a flashcard. They do like it, so they it's very pretty, and they spend a lot of time doodling and colouring and making flowers and whatever on their flashcards, and that's great. But one of the things that I think is really effective is sort of the Q&A flashcard. So on the front, they have a question, whatever that question might be, and on the back, and obviously they would do this from memory, they try and answer that question, and then they can bring the flashcards down to you, or to their brother, or to their sister, or to their friend, and obviously you can use the flashcards then as a testing mechanism And that's much more useful than just copying down reams of information. Okay, so that Q&A flashcard is something that I know works really effectively for a whole host of subjects. And again, I can't stress this enough. If there is something that your son or daughter is having real difficulty with, something that they just can't get to stick in their brain, there is no easy solution. You know, listening to it, you know, or recording it into the mobile phone, it's not going to work. The only thing that works is to write it out again and 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 again until it sticks in their mind. I'm really sorry, I know that's no fun for them, but it is genuinely, from my experience, the only thing that makes it stick. Okay, so all of those different activities should be used at different times for different subjects. But as I say, there's no easy solution here. If they're finding something really difficult, that is my best piece of advice to you, is that they just write it out again and again. So sort of going on to exam skills. So once they've got the sort of knowledge in their head, because that's what revision is, you're just revising the subject content, the knowledge, then you've got to put that into practice. Okay, and so they've got to have a go at past papers. They've got to have a look at the exam board resources. So one of the things that exam boards now do, and there's a whole host of information, I keep talking about exam boards, but there is so much information on the exam boards websites now. And one of the things that they do is they publish not just the past paper and the mark scheme, but they publish what the examiner, well, they call it an examiner's report, what the examiners thought about certain questions. And that is really useful for students to read, because there are lots of hints in those examiners' reports that they can really take on board. And so, you know, have a go at a question, look at the support materials, and then redo the question, take it in for marking to the teacher. But again, I know this is sort of a bit of a bugbear for an English teacher, that really the best way, the only way really to revise for English is to have a go at those past papers, to have a go at those questions, and to get some feedback. So, you know, I cannot stress that enough. Sorry, just another question coming through. Is there another set of mocks happening? There are no mocks, but I know in lessons there are. Actually, is there another set of mocks?
So there's no official set of mocks. However, as I think what Miss was about to say was, I know subjects are doing kind of assessments and are running kind of unofficial mock tests, if you like. So for instance, for myself with drama, we have a kind of, we're looking over there's a 6 marker and a 9 marker question over the next week and a half up until half term. What we will do is we'll go through the 6 marker and the 9 marker. We'll then set them under time conditions, those questions. We'll mark it, give that back, and then go through it as well. And I know lots of subjects are kind of doing that within looking at past papers or looking at topic areas and setting kind of questions. And that's why I said as well earlier, if you check class charts as well, a lot of the homework sometimes is answer this question or do it. So the mocks as a general term are not happening, but I know lots of kind of mock papers and mock questions are being set in class where that revision is taking place.
Okay, as I've said before, if they're just laid on the bed reading through the notes, they're not revising, it's not going to sink in. Have some sympathy. They're going to be grumpy. We can see that in school, can't we?
Definitely.
But, you know, it is not an easy period for them. Revision is not easy. You know, it's just, it is tough, and we have a lot of sympathy for them, but it is a short period. And then they'll have a lovely long summer holiday, hopefully before they join us in the 6th form. Just a minor thing from me. There is a problem with sort of cultural and literacy skills. I don't know why that is, and I don't know if you've noticed it as well, but in the years I've been teaching, I've noticed that it really has sort of got worse. So if I take my year 13 students who are, you know, English students, you know, that sort of cultural understanding just isn't as broad as it was. So, you know, my year 13 students, I was reading an article and they thought Norfolk was in France and that Cornwall was in Yorkshire, which was quite bizarre. Words I hadn't heard of. This is year 13 literature students. They hadn't heard of the word perceptive, occupant, gloomy, okay? Now, that isn't the end of the world, except that the exam board are expecting a certain level of, you know, understanding, of literacy, of cultural understanding. So the more sort of reading they can do, the better, really, because sometimes the kids know the answers to the questions, but they haven't understood the questions. So that literacy is really, really important, and cultural literacy is really important. So I'm not expecting them to pick up a massive book as well as do loads of revision, but if you could occasionally get them to read a good quality newspaper article, that would, you know, it won't take them very long, but it would really, really just sort of help that sort of literacy skill that they actually need to access those sort of higher level questions. Okay. So just a minor plea from me there. Things that we often get asked, should you pay for tutoring? Well, potentially. It can be helpful if your son or daughter is struggling with something, if they need a last minute push in something, or they haven't just grasped a particular concept. But what I would say is that, first of all, make sure that the tutor is au fait with all the new exam board regulations. It can cause massive, massive problems when they don't. I had a student who was being tutored last year who essentially did not know the spec and was giving the student wrong advice, and the student was so polite. She was a nice elderly lady that they didn't want to disappoint them, so they just handed in totally the wrong sort of coursework, which was not very helpful, as you can imagine. So if you do pay for a tutor, make sure that they know their stuff and they know the new syllabuses. I would also say that it's not going to be a replacement. So tutoring should be helpful to support your son or daughter for a particular subject or a particular area. But what it cannot do is replace homework or classwork or revision. Okay, so if your son or your daughter is not doing homework or classwork or revision, I would say there is no point paying for a tutor. You just might as well throw your money away, because tutoring for an hour a week is not going to make up for all of that loss of class time. It's great for a last minute push. It's great if a student has struggled with something, but it's not going to be a replacement for homework and classwork and revision. Revision guides, some are great, some are terrible. Some, again, you might as well just throw your money away. So if you're looking for a revision guide, I'd contact your son or daughter's subject tutor. But again, what I say is most of that information there now is online. You don't necessarily need to buy a revision guide anymore. And your starting point is the exam board website. There's so much great stuff on there that, you know, it's almost not worth buying a revision guide in lots of subjects.
I think just to piggyback on that as well, Miss Howard said it earlier, BBC Bite Size is an amazing resource, and they kind of break it down into exam board differences as well. So if, for instance, they're doing AQA or OCR, because it's slightly different, BBC Bite Size have broken it down into the content for each course for specific subjects. For some reason, when I've spoken to students about BBC Bite Size, they've kind of seen it as, oh, well, that's for smaller kids, that's for like younger kids to deal with, and it's not at all. There is a section for primary, but when you look at the GCSE and the quality of and it's small, again, it's not massive chunks, it's small, there's videos, it's interactive, there's questions, there's exam questions on there. I can't stress how good BBC Bite Size is for you guys to just have a look at as well, the kind of material that would be on there for them.
Certainly for English, it is absolutely superb. It really is. It would be, I think, the best sort of online resource outside of the exam boards, definitely. Have I gone? We've talked briefly about stress, but I am going to hand over to you for this slide, so because you've obviously spent a lot of time sort of talking to students about it.
So something that I've kind of introduced over the last few weeks is this form time, and we don't have a long time in the morning. We don't particularly need a long time with the sessions that I'm planning, because it's about revision resources and revision techniques and types of revision. It's also not taken away from the academic side of the exams, but thinking about managing stress. And as I said at the beginning of the presentation, last week it was on exam anxiety and how to deal with anxiety. It is more difficult than a 15-minute session. I understand that, but I think it's something that needed to be addressed across the year group, because we all get anxious and we all get nervous, and it's about how we deal with that, and just giving, again, some techniques and some strategies. It's not this is a definitive how to deal with it, but it's more of a kind of an open eyes to the students to go, these things do occur, these things will happen, expect them, these are some things we can put in place. And again, there will be a session coming up after half term on healthy eating and kind of looking after yourself around the exam period, because I think it's really important that because scientifically proven as well that, you know, if we're having a good breakfast, if we're eating well throughout the day, if we're keeping hydrated, everything's going to work a lot better. It's no coincidence that when I speak to students who have had a bit of a meltdown or are suffering from some panic or some anxious feelings, you know, when you kind of go, okay, how's your morning been? And they go, oh, well, I slept in, I got up late, I haven't had anything to eat, I haven't had a drink, I've now got a headache, and all of these things build up and build up. Although I've sat here and said, make sure they're revising, I think it is important as well, and I will be pushing that message to students to make sure that they're also doing stuff that they enjoy, and it's not just all about kind of revision. You know, at the weekend, make sure they're going out for a walk, they're walking the dog, or if they play a sports team, or you know, that they are still involved with their life, and they're having things that they can switch off from. So that will be something that I'm looking forward in the next few weeks as well of implementing within form.
Yeah, absolutely. So having a balanced approach, isn't it? I think that's really crucial. So they are doing the work, but they're also sort of not stressing out at the same time. They're not working till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, because that's not going to do them any good. You know, there will be some students who are not anxious at all, and there are some students that will be overly anxious, and some students who will be moderately, you know, and again, you know your son or your daughter. What I would say is that if you've got any concerns, so it would be weird if they weren't nervous or anxious on the day of an exam, okay? But you know, if that sort of, you think it's becoming overwhelming, then just contact your child's form tutor with any concerns, okay? But as I say, I stress it would be totally normal for students to feel anxious. You know, if they're going into their maths exam, it would be weird if they weren't a bit worried about it. Okay, that's totally normal. Got a couple of questions coming through. One about asking us to set mandatory work every day apart from homework. We can't really set, you know, tell students what to do with revision as mandatory, unfortunately, because we would have no way of checking that. And B, as I said at the start, it's going to be different for every student. You know, some students will have done loads of revision for their mocks and actually now won't have to do masses of revision, whereas some students will have a lot to do in a short period of time. So it wouldn't be really, we can't really have a blanket approach there, unfortunately.
I think that's where the kind of the student-led timetable comes in really well, though. So if you sit down with your son and plan a timetable out together, that gives a little bit more focus each evening to go, right, okay, we planned this out. Say you plan it over the weekend, we planned it out for the next week. On Monday, you are doing this. And again, if you sit down with them and plan that timetable out, there's a little bit of ownership from them as well. So they can go, okay, do you know what? I do need to do half hour on this. So they've got more of a buy-in rather than kind of seeing it as an extra piece of homework.
What I'd also say as well is that if you're concerned about your son or daughter not doing any work, and you're really worried about that, just contact your son or daughter's form tutor in the first instance, and we could maybe pick them up individually and just do some monitoring with them, okay, rather than just have a blanket approach there. Information about which exam boards have been used, I presume that it should be on the school website. So if you go into the subject areas, it should all be on the school website about which exam boards are used, and it will also be on the GCSE exam timetables. But if you're struggling with that, please just contact Mr. Gooch directly, just send him an email and we can sort that out for you.
Again, as Miss said, the exam boards for each subject are on the GCSE timetable, which is on the website. So if you go onto the website, download the link to the timetable, and it will tell you for each subject, AQA, OCR, whatever it is.
Okay, so the big thing here is preparation for the exam. If a student misses an exam, it is highly, highly, highly unlikely they will get a grade. Okay, so it is essential that they get there and that they get there on time. They should really be arriving in school now. Obviously, up until half term, they will be in school anyway. But after the half term, when they are coming in for their exams, please make sure that they arrive 20 minutes before each exam so that we can get them sorted and settled, so that they don't go to the wrong incorrect exam venue or misread where they're supposed to be or go to the wrong seat. It just gives us time to get them sorted out. If students are late for exams, it can lead to their papers being discounted. Now, I know some of the students obviously will be arriving on the school bus and you have no control over that. We can sort it out. If a whole bus full of students is late, we will be able to sort something out. But if an individual student is late because they slept in or whatever, then the exam boards will not take that into account, and it wouldn't be up to the school, it would be up to the exam boards if they discounted the paper or counted the papers or not. Every year that I have been either a head of year or assistant head or deputy head, there's been at least 3 or 4 students in an exam period, both year 11 and year 13, who miss exams just because they've misread the timetable. So they rock up in the afternoon for a morning exam. And I've had many a conversation with quite distressed parents asking me to rearrange those GCSE or A-level exams. And of course, that can't be done. They're national exams. So if a student misses an exam, that's it, they've missed the exam. And it means that they will not get the marks for that exam paper. So if I take English language, they have 2 English language exams, it means that they've missed 50% of that exam paper, which means that they will get a very, very low grade. So I cannot stress enough that you print off that exam timetable, you make sure that over the exam period it's up on the fridge and they know exactly when their exams are and what time they need to be in school. It sounds ridiculous, it sounds like it never happens, it sounds like it would only happen to, so it happens to a whole range of students, from the most academic student the most committed student who just gets it wrong on the day. So it's really important that sort of you're supporting them with that as much as you can. When they come in for exams, they do need to be in full school uniform, and they do need the right equipment. So one of the things that really stood out for me in the mock exams this year was the amount of them who did not have a pen for a mock exam. And if that happens, they're not going to be able to write anything down. So, you know, they've got to write in black ink, because now the exam papers are scanned, and if it's not black, it won't show. So they need to have a black biro pen, again, the same with ballpoint pens. They need to have a black biro pen with them. Preferably, they need 4 or 5 black biro pens with them in case they run out of ink. Okay, but they have got to know what equipment they need for the exam. Now, they will know that because their teachers will have told them and told them and told them. But obviously, if you can double check with them the night before that they have everything, that would really, really help them. Gel pens, no, there's a question that's come through about gel pens. They cannot write in gel pens, black biro. Okay, another example coming through. The exams will have set times. So I think the exams in the morning start about 9 o'clock. And so the exams have a set times each day. Okay. So I think it's either 8:45 or 9
o'clock most
in the
of
morning,
yeah.
And then the school day will be slightly altered for the exam period. So we'll have 3 lessons in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. So that will give time for the afternoon exams. The students will remain at school during the study leave period, whilst there is no study leave, but after the half term, students will be free to leave the exam, leave school after the exam if they're able to. The SLT are going around the form times, but if there's any concerns, please email Mr. Googe about that. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, is there any more messages?
I think it's just that bottom one.
Please can you include a link to the exam when you email? Yeah, we can certainly do that. Sorry, the question was asking about emailing out the link to the exam timetable, so I'm sure we can do that. Okay. Yeah, well, when I say we, I'm saying Mr. Googe.
Okay.
Okay, and just a reminder that they need to be in full school uniform for their exams. Okay. So just a sort of a few key dates. So the first lot of GCSEs start on the 16th. The provisional date, so this is just taken again from the exam timetable. The provisional end date is the 29th of the 6th. Okay, so you should not really be booking any holidays, etc. during that time. Now, the reason for that is that the 29th, there are no exams on the 29th, but that is always, there's always a day in case there is an issue with exams and they have to rearrange an exam for any reason. So the exam boards, or I can't remember the name of the exam board overall for Arching, but JWC are request that year 11 students are available to sit exams between those 2 dates, so the 16th to the 29th. On the 5th of July, we have a sixth form induction day that will be organised. So it would be really good to see your son or daughter being involved in that. A date that I'm sure is already certainly exciting our young people is the prom, which is on the 7th of July. which is obviously in the process of being organised at the moment.
Yeah, I know there was some issues with some students saying we didn't get a letter, etc. The letters got emailed out. However, I do have a stash in my office. So if your son or daughter didn't get a letter, then please do ask them to come to the office, pop by, and I can give them one. The deadline is the 31st of March, so it is rattling on to get those letters in, because we need definitive numbers, etc. I know there's also been an issue with some parents paying on parent pay but not returning the slip, which is brilliant because you've paid for it, either the whole amount or the instalment. However, we have no indication as to, unless Parent Pal, we get that data off, who is coming, etc. So we need the signatures back from parents to say that you've given them permission. So
it's absolutely, it will be, you know, legally we need to have, I know it sounds ridiculous, but we need to have that signature in from you. So even if you've paid, if we haven't got that signature, it means that legally we can't take them. So please get that information back as soon as possible. Just a reminder as well, so GCSE results day and sixth form enrolment day will be on the 25th of August. If your son or daughter is planning to come in for results day and pick up their results, can you make sure we cannot, under GDPR regulation, we couldn't give the GCSE slips to a parent. It would have to go to the student themselves. So the students would have to come in to collect them themselves. They can't just send a friend in or a grandparent or yourself in to collect them. It would have to come, they would have to come in and collect those results. And on that day as well, they'll be choosing their sixth form courses. So it'd be great to see as many students as possible on that day. And really, all that's really left to say is that, you know, we've really enjoyed working with the year group so far, and we really do wish them every success. I'm sure they will all do very, very well. It's a really good year group, isn't it? It is.
It is. I'm really excited for them, and hopefully with what we've put in place and what we can support each other with, we're giving them the best opportunity as well. So thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Sorry, just one more question. If the student is away when the results are made available, can they come in later? The results will be emailed out as well. So if they can't come in on that results day, they will be emailed out. Okay. So if there are no more questions, we'll just say thank you to everybody for joining us. And if you think of anything, or if you've got anything that you suddenly remember as soon as we close this down, then please do email Mr. Googe.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.